Hey everybody, it's Stacy Duffy here, your Denver Metro real estate resource, and today I'm making a tutorial video for uploading your contacts into Google Contacts, which this is not my area of expertise. I usually don't do tech support videos. However, in the process of updating or going to a new CRM and having to move the contacts from our old CRM into our new one, and I think a lot of realtors have probably been through this process, or really anybody in the sales field. However, realtors tend to change CRMs a lot as far as customer relationship management software systems that we use. And so in the process of going through this, it's a common pain point. But I think so many people use Google Contacts that when I was trying to find a video for this, I couldn't. So I ended up making my own template and having to train a lot of the agents in my office. I'm training a lot of them and doing a video on it. So I figured I'd go ahead and shoot one for everybody. So I'm just going to hit some of the high points. I'm not going to go into detail. If you've been trying to figure out how to get the fields to map properly in Google Contacts and you're having problems, you're at the point where the little things that I'm going to say are really going to help. If you're starting from scratch and you've never worked with Google Contacts at all and you don't know Excel, this is not going to be as much help as you probably need. But I'm going to hit the high points and gotcha things that I figured out the hard way, and we'll get started. Alrighty, so I strongly recommend having two screens to do this process because it makes everything so much easier. However, just for simplicity's sake and for the video, I've got both of the Excel spreadsheets or the CSV sheets, depending on the file format that you're exported in, but that doesn't really matter at this point. So I've got them side by side, which is what I recommend doing. So if you're coming from a different CRM, this one, for example, is Realvolve, is the export from Realvolve. Lion Desk, Buffini, Realty Juggler, and Salesforce is far beyond my capability and my understanding at this point. I've just never used it. But most CRMs or contact databases of some sort, when you export a file, you're going to get a CSV file. I just went ahead and saved mine into an Excel format, but it really doesn't matter. The CSV is just fine. So you're going to get a file with usually each column is a field in that contact file, and then the actual contact files are going to be the rows. The individual people, or contact information, is going to be the rows. So Google works the same way. If you've been struggling with Google, I'm not going to go into the details as far as where the Realvolve export is, because that really doesn't matter. What matters is how Google works, and so you know how to get your information into it. So the gotcha things, and if you're wanting to be very, very detailed and do this yourself, what I recommend doing is going into Google Contacts. So I've essentially just got an empty Google Contacts file here, and then create a contact and literally fill in anything and everything that you would ever want to use or that you want to have mapped in the import file. So a lot of things you probably thinking, oh, I don't need that, whatever. But if you need it for one of your contacts and then you don't have it, you have to go put it in manually later, it's going to be frustrating. So if you want to create your own template, your own Google template to input everything, then I strongly recommend just filling in a detailed contact, doing an export file, and using that as your starting point to put all your information in. There are a couple gotchas, especially regarding date format, that you need to pay attention to there, and I'll point those out when I get to that point going through the import file. So and also, big thing to point out, Google Contact has custom fields. So if you are coming from a different CRM or different file, for example, my Realvolve file has tags or referred to, referred by, referred date. It has all of these detailed fields, and Google doesn't have those. I can create my own custom fields to match those, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So essentially, going into the Google file, the reason that I recommend creating a contact and exporting it, if you're not going to use a template or don't know, is because then given name, for those that aren't familiar with the terminology, know that that's your first name, and then your family name is your last name. You can do additional names for middle names. Yomi names have to do with pronunciation for certain languages. So in the US, we're not, traditionally using those depending on your language. So there's a lot of information in here that you may or may not need. The other things, understanding on how they work compared to a traditional or a different, not traditional, but just different style of CRM information. So I've got some fake people over here with some fake addresses and phone numbers and emails and all that stuff. So you can see a lot of CRMs, at least Realvolve for example, but I think Buffini and Realty Juggler and Lion Desk and a lot of them work the same way generally, is they'll have a main, like a main address, a main phone number, a main email, and then they'll have a work address, a work phone, a work email, home, whatever you want to call it. So they will essentially categorize all of a contact's contact information by a particular label, and they label those in the columns. So there may be some overlap. Some CRMs will designate that someone's, main address is also their home address, or you can link those things together. So, but understanding that Google does not work like that as far as Google Contacts. Google Contacts works on a type and value system. So it's much more non-specific. And essentially what it allows you to do is name any of those whatever you want, which is pretty cool. So you can have 5 addresses for a contact as long as you tell it what each address is. Is address 1 a work address? Is it a home address? And it doesn't really matter. So for simplicity's sake, what I strongly recommend that I think would make the process, if you're trying to copy and paste a lot of this info over into your Google spreadsheet a lot easier, is to just label email 1 type. Label that as, okay, these are all my home addresses for all of my contacts. And I'm just going to make all of these home, and I have these bold for not any particular reason, but I'm just going to make all of these a home address, or the home email, since I'm using email right now. So let's say I'm going to go over to my emails and I'm going to find, whatever my main email is for my contacts, or home emails. Okay, cool. So these are my home emails. And just to help keep things clear, I recommend go ahead and copy and paste the old export file header as well, so you know that they line up and that you've got them in the right place. Worst case, if you don't take it out of your CSV file before you import it into Google Contacts, worst case is it makes a contact, one contact, that's called first name, last name, and has all of those, and you can just delete that, and it doesn't really matter. But for the process of copying and pasting a lot of your information, it's going to help you keep it straight. So always copy, and if you're familiar with Excel, you understand this, always copy and paste all of this, not just these individual ones, because otherwise it's going to paste them and they're going to get all out of order and it's going to be a nightmare. So copy and paste all of the content for that column that you want to copy. And okay, so these are all the email 1 value. So all of my values are the actual email addresses. That's the value. And then Google sees the type as the column before that. So email 1 type, email 1 value, home address, home email address, okay? And the same goes for streets, for phone numbers, for all of that information, all that contact information. Understanding how your old CRM formats addresses to how the new, Google Contacts formats addresses does take a little bit of time, and it's going to be different between each CRM as far as which one you're actually exporting from and how they all work. So what I found is that the Google Contacts formatted address field, it will automatically fill in based on street, city, P.O. box. If you put that in, region is state. So that's your state field for those that are in the U.S. Postal code is zip code. Country, I think that's, pretty common sense. But if you're looking for state, you don't find it, it's region. So the format will automatically, Google Contacts will automatically put that together based on all the other fields. So I don't bother copy and pasting into that one. As you can see, my old CRM actually split things out. So it has the full formatted street address. So you could probably put that into format, but I didn't test it individually. But if you, mine old one split it out by street number versus street direction versus street name, which I thought was a pain in the butt to put in, and didn't make any sense to me. So whatever, I usually do street address, city, state, zip code, and country code, or country if that's applicable for you. But knowing where those go and knowing that, okay, my main street address, so all of my main addresses are going to be type 1, my address 1. So I'm going to name all of these because that's my type. I'm going to name these main. So all of my main addresses are going to go here. For work address, yes, you could technically put that, okay, for this contact, this is their work address. Personally, when you're copy and pasting a significant number of contacts, it's a nightmare to keep track of who's on what row and which ones you have and have not done. So I don't recommend that. Just go over to address 2 and say address 2 type is going to be all of my work addresses. So if you want to name all of your ones, you know, email, phone, address, all of those one is, you know, their main, whether that's home or whatever. I mean, you can set it up however you want, but I would just recommend designating a particular address number, saying, okay, my address type for all of those is going to be work. And that way I can go to my old CRM and I can find all of my work addresses. You know, I've only got, I guess, 6 or 7 fake people in here, so I don't have that many work addresses, but all of my work addresses are going to be the type 2 address. In Google, if you don't have, you know, addresses for these people, then it really doesn't matter if there's a label. So if you label all of these work, but you don't have work addresses for all these people, it's not going to create blank addresses in Google. It's just going to say, okay, do I have a value? If so, yes. What's the corresponding type label that goes with that, the corresponding type that I need to call it? If I don't have a value, then I don't care what the type is because there's no value to assign that to. So I'm just going to leave that field blank. It's not like it's going to fill in a bunch of blank fields in Google, which is really nice. So go through your old CRM spreadsheet and input all of that information, your work emails, your work phones, whatever. So what the next thing I wanted to show y'all that Google has some options for. Sorry, getting a phone call. Alrighty, sorry, I got a call, had to take care of some work stuff. So I don't exactly remember where I was, but anyway, regarding Google Contacts and a lot of the additional fields, what I wanted to address there was relationships, events, and custom fields. So, like I mentioned, Google Contacts is very consistent as far as how it sees a lot of the fields. So relationships, it calls relation 1 type, relation 1 value, relation 2 type, relation 2 value. So if you have in your CRM spouses, children, parents, previous realtor relationships or referring realtors or whatever you want to call it. So however you want to use these fields is really up to you. And I would say just be consistent throughout as far as your nomenclature. The one thing that I will say kind of sucks, at least coming from Realvolve, is depending on your CRM or your contact database, whatever you're pulling them from, how it looks at spouses varies a lot between systems. So in my old CRM, it used to do, you know, it was very, very good at linking spouses, but when I exported, it asked me, do you want the spouses to be one contact field or one contact row in your CSV, or do you want them to be separate? And so I opted to separate them so I could keep the contact information separate. However, because of that, I don't have a spouse, designated spouse field. So in my example, I know that, okay, Brian and Carol are married. However, I don't have a particular spouse field that says, you know, Brian is married to this person, Carol, and Carol is married to this person, Brian. So what I did in Google Contacts was I designated that, okay, relationship 1 is spouse. And I made all of, you know, anyone that had a spouse. And this is where it gets tricky and it's a little cumbersome to manage, but I would essentially say, okay, that spouse, let's assume that I have the row correct. I don't, but I should probably go back and look. But anyway, since I don't have all the information in, but I'm going to say that, okay, if this is Brian's contact row, then his spouse is Carol. And if this is Carol's contact row, then her spouse is Brian. And so I designated it that way. Depending on what you're using those fields for and how you're going to build mailing templates and everything out of that really determines the best way to do that. If you just want to use the first names, that might be better if they share a same last name. If you're going to do mailings and you want to keep the last name separate, that's where things get messy and it gets, you know, a little convoluted. So I'm not going to go into to drill that down, but just to make you aware how the relationship fields work. If you want to name that all of these are, you know, first child, like child 1, and then relationship 3 is child 2. However you want to use these fields is completely your choice. These I don't, unless you're copy and pasting a significant amount of data, excuse me, from your source file, from your old export file, then maybe you don't have to designate these all the same. That if you only have spouses for a few people, then maybe you just say, okay, use each one and individually type them in, and you can do that. But if you're going to copy and paste any amount of significant data, I always recommend just designating a relationship. You know, relationship 1 is all the same type. Relationship 2 is all the same type, etc. Because as I've mentioned, it's not like Google Contacts is going to label them as relationship 1, relationship 2 is just which order they show up in the field in. So if there's actually only one, you know, they don't have a spouse, they don't have kids, but you know their mom's name and you want to put that in relationship 4, then it's just going to show mom, or, you know, it's going to show parent and or mom, whatever type you label it as, and whatever that person's name is. It's not going to show a bunch of blank ones. So regarding events and custom fields are the last two things I really want to hit on to explain the differences there, because those are some of the gotchas. And those are a lot of the fields that the people that do this pretty regularly are going to use. So, or at least we're using it for CRMs. So relationships, it's got websites in there. I just built a couple into my template. If you work in the web design field and you want to have those, fill in some more custom ones. You know, you can make website 2 dash value or type and website 2 dash value. You can extend any of these that way. So if you have more events, more relationships, more whatever, just, you know, input a couple. So I already did that for 5. Let's say insert a couple more columns, keep them all together, and copy and paste and say, okay, I'm going to make this event 6 type and event 6 value. Be careful, because if you get these hyphens off or you misspell, you know, if you take the hyphen out of email or you misspell value, things aren't going to map correctly. So you have to be very, very particular on these column headers. But for events, big thing here that I found out the hard way, Google Contacts Import is very particular on the format of the date for events. Birthday, you can throw any crap in there and it seems to sort through it and it doesn't have a problem as far as the format of the date for birthday. However, for a lot of these custom events that it sees as calendar events, it's very particular on the date format. So for example, if I'm going to say that, okay, out of my old CRM, the home sale anniversary was these dates, and then, okay, I'm going to copy all of my stuff like I've been doing for all of them, and I'm going to copy them into the value field, and I'm going to put my header in there as well so I can keep track and make sure that, okay, event 1 value, home sale anniversary. So now I know that these are home sale anniversary. And let's say your CRM that uses uses Google Contacts as a source of information, if you can get those fields to automap, like let's say my CRM actually calls this home anniversary and that triggers a particular action in that software, and I need to name this the same thing for it to map properly, then you can name that. Some have that capability, some don't. But I'm going to name all those the home anniversaries, and I know that the home sale anniversary for, you know, these people is this date. However, if I do put all of my information in and save this and upload this into Google Contacts and import it, it is not going to map this properly. My phone just won't stop ringing today. Sorry, guys. So it is not going to map this properly because it's very, very particular on the format of these dates. And so put all of your information in, and when you're done, select all of your event value fields, anything that has a date, an actual physical date in it, and format those dates to a custom format, because it's not even a regular format in Excel, to year, 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 month, month, day, day. Okay, that is how it sees dates in when you're mapping fields in Google Contacts. And so once you do that, you can see here it's updated my date format to, you know, December 29th, 2017. But if you do not have the dates in this format and you import the CSV file into Google Contacts with a different date format for all these events, they're not going to map properly and it's going to drive you crazy. Found that out the hard way. So And that's one of those things that if if you're building your own template and you fill in all of those fields that you're ever going to use and you export it, you notice those things. You notice that on the export. So whatever the export spits out, make sure you match that perfectly to be able to upload. Okay. So we talked about events, we talked about dates, and last thing is custom fields. So I'm going to hit on that, and then I'm going to let y'all, go crazy with this stuff. So custom fields, just like anything else. Custom field type, custom field value. So in your Google Contacts, that gives you all of these custom fields. So if you're coming from a CRM that has a significant number of fields that you want to keep categorized as a custom field, and you already have notes you're going to copy and paste, and that's not going to, if you already have notes you're copy and pasting and you don't want to overlap or have to split the cells or merge them or anything like that, create some custom fields. So like here, referred by. So for realtors using CRMs, referred by may be a field that we use quite a lot of. Year moved, if you don't have a home purchase anniversary or something, and they move, that contact moved to your current state in 2015, but they haven't purchased a property yet. You just want to keep track of how long they've been here. Whatever you want to track. One thing that I strongly recommend using this for is if your previous CRM or database management software used tags or some sort of categorization, okay? Because I haven't talked about groups in Google, and I'll talk about that last. So my old software used tags, and how it spit those out when I exported the file is that, okay, this contact file had these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tags assigned to it. But that is not how Google reads the tags. Yes, you can write software to automatically tie these in together and technically reformat all your tags with the 3 colons between them for those that know what I'm talking about. Most people aren't going to go to that level of detail because it's a pain, and you have to know some pretty good Excel coding to do that. So what most people are going to want to do are copy and paste this, but Google doesn't see groups and labels that way. So I want to keep track of these tags because I want to be able to search Google Contacts, because Google Contacts is very searchable, right? So when I have a bunch of contacts in here, I can search one of these tags, for example, like everyone that had the Xmas tag in my old software, and it will search all those custom fields and all those contacts that I've imported for that tag, and then I can apply a label to them, which is Google's way of categorizing your contacts or labeling and grouping your contacts. So what I recommend, use these custom fields, use them to your advantage, make this process a lot easier for you when you're looking for information later that you used to use but haven't used in a while or isn't set up the same way. So same thing that I've been doing, I'm going to copy my header field so I know what everything is, and I'll just delete that contact person once I get them into the system, that fake contact with all the headers in there. And I'm going to paste, and then I'm going to say, okay, I want to call this tags because that's what my old software called it. That's what I'm going to know it as, and I'm going to label that all my custom field 1 type are my tags, and all of my values are the tags for those individual contacts. So that way, when I go into Google, I'm going to show you that once I get it uploaded and show you that feature of how to apply those groups. So use those custom fields however you'd like. Some people use them for mailing names. If your old software output a mailing address label and you had all those formatted properly and you want to have that as an individual field to make your mail merges easier in the future, you can do that. However you want to use those fields, okay? Notes are huge. Keep track of your notes for, realtors using CRMs or, salespeople wanting that reference information. If you're, and I don't know Salesforce capabilities, but if your old CRM has the capability to track previous emails sent and you want to designate a custom field as email sent, and then there's, fields for each of that, however you want to use those things. So the reason that those custom fields are important and the searchability is important for groups is Google Contacts uses labels. So if you have a contact in here, it's going to have you create a label, and a lot of CRMs that use Google Contacts as its input for your database, as far as the actual contact information, will categorize those by groups or labels. That's an interchangeable term in Google Contacts, depending on the CRM you're using. So you can import everybody, search for this particular, custom field. It'll search the entire contact information for that, pull up all the people that have that in there, and then you can create a label and apply that to all those people pretty quickly. And that's a really good way to get caught up on your groups as well. So because how Google exports those is a very unusual nomenclature, and it's not real easy to type. If you actually want to type your groups into your CSV so they import and they're already there, just in case you want to torture yourself that way. I did a little bit of torture myself that way because I'd like to clean everything up in my CSV before I import it into Google. So I would say Xmas because this client gets this contact gets a Christmas card that I send out. And then it is a space, 3 colons, another space, and then whatever the next group label is. So maybe this is an Aggie because they went to Texas A&M. Space, 3 colons, space, and this is a past client. Space, 3 colons, space. So as you can see, to apply those groups or labels in the CSV and have them import properly in Google Contacts, it's not the most intuitive. It's kind of a mess to do. Like I mentioned, I recommend importing the contact, searching for, information, whether it's previous tags, previous notes, wherever that information falls into the contact file that you want to have it stored, or a custom field, and then applying all those labels on the Google side. I think that's a little bit easier. So what we're going to do, because the last thing we're doing is we already checked our dates. Always check your dates. Anytime you update the CSV before you import it, make sure your dates are in the correct format. We already applied our date formatting. I didn't apply it to birthday. I don't have anything in here right now. Like I said, birthday's really forgiving for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm going to save as. I'm going to save as the CSV. And then Excel's going to say, yeah, it already exists because I've been doing this a while. And it's going to say, hey, we don't get to keep all the features. Just click yes, you want to keep it as a CSV. You know you're going to lose some cool stuff there, but you're okay with that. And then import your contacts. Select that file and hit import. And the cleaner that file is, the better this is going to look, okay? So Google will automatically see how it created those groups that I applied to that one contact. I typed them in and it automatically mapped those properly because I typed them in correctly. And it will automatically create all of the people that were on that file. It will import and apply a imported on whatever date to. So you can find those people easily if you want to do that. So these people are blank because I put in some contact information. I just didn't put in names. I actually had a value in one of the fields. Therefore, it said, hey, there's a value. I'm making something for it. But you see all these other ones where I didn't have a work phone number. It didn't create a blank work phone number field. It just created whatever I had. It has my custom field. It has my home anniversary date that is properly mapped. And it has my email labeled with the home because I called it type home. So all of those automatically map correctly. They don't drive me nuts. I don't want to pull my hair out because I learned this the right way. So anyway, that's how to get your people into Google Contacts to go in and apply. Let's say I didn't apply that label to enough people apparently. No, they're all in the tags. So let's say I want to go in and I'm going to delete this one. I want to keep that contact, but I just want to delete the label because I want to show you that, okay, come on. Oh, I didn't click the right button. No, I just want to delete the label. Ah, Google, you suck. Okay, so, but let's say, okay, I have that Xmas label for one contact, but I have a bunch of other, all these other people get my Christmas card too, so I'm going to search Xmas because it was all in their tags. So, yep, there we go. So here's all the people that had Xmas in their information. Now these aren't real people, so I'm just going to delete them in a bit. And I want to apply that Xmas label to all of them so it shows up here on the label. So in my CRM, it will say, hey, anyone with an Xmas label here, you can send them the email, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to, oh, I know what it's doing. Okay, so I didn't add all these people to my contacts. That was my fault. Because if I actually go to contacts, I don't have anybody in there yet. But everybody's just kind of in that other category. So after you import everybody, the people that you want to add to your contacts, select them all, or you can go down here and select all. I'm going to deselect these people because they're not real people because I only have partial information. And I am going to look at your options up here. You've got merge, you've got manage labels, you've got send email. I'm going to add to my contacts because I actually want those in my contacts. So if your CRM links to your contacts only, not the others, most of them won't go to other contacts. If your CRM links to your contacts, make sure you add those people to your contacts to actually upload into your CRM. But I'm going to search those contacts for Xmas, and it's going to say, okay, cool, so you have some contacts with that in their file, and then you have these other people that aren't in your contacts. So I'm going to say, okay, cool, I want to add all these people, and I want to apply, I don't know why it's not giving me the Christmas label, guys. I'm just trying to help. So, and I'm going to apply the Xmas label. All right, so sometimes Google Contacts is pissy. All I did was refresh the page. But, so I'm just going to do that again because my Xmas label is still there. So I'm going to select those contacts, and oh, here are my labels, and I'm going to apply the Xmas label. And now it says that, okay, there's 5 people that now have that label. You see, it hasn't popped up over here just yet. I usually go over to the main contact page, and okay, now it applied them. So if you're going to add in contact file information, I recommend doing that. Here's that fake, header one where we applied some stuff. So I'm going to delete that person because that person doesn't really matter because it's not real. It was just all the headers from my old file. But that's how I recommend taking advantage of your old CRM tags or custom fields or however you categorized your people in your old CRM based on subscription services or mailing or marketing or anything like that. So, I don't have a lot of people in there with Boomerang. Most of them were other stuff. But anyway, just a way to show y'all how to get people in there. Definitely watch out on how the group labels are done. Do that in Google Contacts later. You take advantage of the custom fields. Make sure you keep, your type 1 and your value 1. Keep everything straight. And be sure to apply your date filter to the end so that works properly. I don't remember which person I had a date in here for. But anyway, in your spouses and everything else. So I think I've got some dates in here. No, I guess not. So be sure to apply your date filter as far as how those dates are viewed at the end. So all of those dates upload properly into Google Contacts. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful for y'all. I don't do tech support videos very often, but I've been training helping a lot of the agents in my brokerage getting started on this kind of stuff. And I ran into these issues significantly and had a steep learning curve figuring it out myself. So I figured I'd just throw it up on Google for everybody, for other realtors that are going through the same issue that I was. So thanks so much for the time. All the best. Get your CRM nice and clean and take advantage of it and use it, and have a great day.